Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to a double weekly wrap up because I was at Wanderlust in San Antonio last weekend. If you haven't seen it already, I did put up a vlog and you can see everything that went down when I got to go hang out with some bookish friends and meet some authors. It was amazing, but basically I just was like, let's squish 2 weeks together. And so I'm getting this filmed and ready to go. And I'm actually filming it a day early. So my channel members will actually get this video 2 days before everyone else. So, you know, when things like that happen, when I have to pre-film a bit in advance, because let's say I'm going out of town for a family member's birthday party, you get access to these things early, you know? So that's another pitch for people to join channel memberships. I do have quite a few options for that. And in fact, before we dive into the rest of the video, I do want to thank both K Heft and Just a Husk, really like that screen name, for joining channel memberships. We have a new Faded Friend and a new Sassy Supporter, so thank you both so much. You guys really keep me going, especially when YouTube decides they don't like a certain video that I do or something like that happens. You guys are what literally keep the lights on around here, so that's amazing. One other thing I want to thank a viewer for, because I know that she sent me a gift previously and I don't think she has an Instagram or a way to like tag her, but a sweet viewer, Lorena, sent me something from my wish list, which I was not expecting someone to buy me from there, because it was literally like I put it on my wish list to remember to buy it. And so she sent me it wrapped and everything, so I got a cute little card, and she sent me season 6 of Outlander, which was so kind. I know that on this channel I always promise more Outlander content and it usually doesn't end up happening, and I promise you I wish I could make all the Outlander content I wanted, but when it's not like the show on or a new book coming out, they just don't do as well as I want, and I wish I could take the time aside to do that, but the amount of work that Outlander videos take is a lot. But it is obviously something very close to my heart. In every video I do, you can't always see it right here, but there's literally, it's all Outlander right above my head, right above it on this shelf. And it's something so close to my heart. And I wish that I was a channel that could just do Outlander all the time. But either way, Lorena, thank you so much for sending me the box set of season 6. I had forgot it had come out yet, which is why it was on my wish list to remind me that it was out. And I had a box yesterday and I was like, I haven't ordered anything that would be here today. And it was this, and you absolutely made my day. So thank you so much. I love it right now because there's an even number of seasons, so it like is symmetrical up above my head. But anyway, we are going to dive in now to the books I have to talk about, because I have 17 books to discuss. Like we said, since we're split into, I have 2 weeks mushed together. So some of these I will talk more in depth about than others, but it was quite an interesting little bit of time. So I do have my notes down here. If you see me looking down, that's what I'm looking at. Also, as a reminder, I am not keeping photos up for the entire video. I did end up getting a new phone and I have more space, but since I've discovered how much space and time it eats up, just the difference of having a photo be overlaid for that amount of time, I know that that really got in some people's panties. It really put them in a twist. But every book that I read, as well as a link to the Amazon link if you want to buy it, is down below in my description. So if I'm talking about a book and you happen to look up and I don't have the picture beside me, it will be listed down below in the description. I always do that. But I am going to like put the book up when I start talking about it. And if I talk for a really long time, I'll put it back up again at the end when I'm done talking about it. But that's just the way it's got to be, because it's the difference in a video being 5 gigabytes or being literally 20 gigabytes if I keep it on the whole time. So I'll just keep reminding people at the beginning, because like, I know it's convenient when it's beside my head the whole time when I'm talking about it, but it's very inconvenient as the person who has to edit and upload all the videos. And I think we're big kids. We can look in the description and it'll be okay. So anyway, let's go ahead. The first book that I finished, which this would have been now on week 37, was Seraph by Lily Mayne. So this was a new release. This was her newest book in the Monster series. It's book 7 or 6. It's book 6, and there's also like a novella that fits in there. And this is about Seraph, who is a monster that we don't know what he is at the beginning. He seems to be crazy and feral and a danger to himself and others. And then we have Lilac, who has been this interesting character that we've seen in the past couple books, just keeping an eye on his friends and, you know, looking out for the settlement. And he has this amazing compassion for Seraph, who was kept prisoner by a very evil woman in previous books. And when Gloam was rescued, Seraph was someone we were able to rescue as well, but we're not able to communicate with him. And he, like we said, he's kind of this feral beast, and we're worried that we may have to put him down. Honestly, we don't even know that he's a him yet. You know, we don't know. But Lilac goes about looking after him, and he starts to slowly get a rapport with Seraph. And this is a very slow burn. This book is very long. This book needs to be a slow burn because this creature is very monstrous. He's literally the least human looking, the least, you know, attractive looking of all the monsters thus far. And so I was very unsure. I was not confident how Lily Mayne could make this a romance for me, how Lily Mayne could make Seraph sexy to me in any way. But I gotta tell you, the slow burn of this and the way we slowly start to understand Seraph and the way that Lilac finds a way to communicate with him, and when we discover what made Seraph this way and how he became this way, it just broke my heart. And so by the time there starts being anything sexual happening, anything romantic happening, I wanted Seraph to be happy, and I wanted him and Lilac to be together. And also, this book had a kink in it, had a sexual act in it that I gotta tell you, it's been on my bucket list of things to read for a very long time. I know that sounds weird. I'm gonna tell you what it is, and you're gonna be like, oh yeah. And if you know of any other books that have this in it, please tell me, because I couldn't even try to do a oddly specific book rec for this, because this is the only one. It's literally been on, like I said, it's been on a bucket list of kinks that I want to read, okay? Okay? And it's sounding. And if you don't know what sounding is, I will briefly tell you. It is a type of sexual act that involves, with humans, because these are monsters, so the way that the sounding happens, like, they're able to physically do it, but sounding usually does involve using a very tiny implement, well, at least starting with, and going through the male urethra. So, you know, oh look, I have a squishy peen. Let's show you. So you have the little peen, and it's an implement, and it goes, this is way too large for this. It goes down this, and it can stimulate nerves inside of the peen. So that's been anatomy with Jenn. And when I saw that on the content warning list, I was like, oh shit, I need to see this. Besides the fact that I said I will try anything that Lily Mayne writes, because she's made me love monsters all the time. But I particularly was intrigued to see this. And Seraph is able to do this to Lilac with his tongue. All right. It happened. Okay, it happened. And it was brilliant, and it was extremely sexy, and I loved it. So again, if you have ever read sounding in a book at all, probably not using a tongue, but if you have, please tell me, because what I wouldn't give to be able to put together an oddly specific book rec for that. But again, there's just one. Like right now, just be, this is extremely specific. But again, like if you've read any of Lily Mayne, you know what I mean. If you don't want to start with the monster as scary as Seraph, you can start with Soul Eater, which is one of my favorite books that I read this year, and I literally can't wait to reread it in December. It's gonna be amazing. So I talked way too long about that one, but I gave that one a 4.5 star. I did knock a little because it was like very long, and what the like third act conflict ended up being just was strange. Like, it was strange. So yeah, and I gave this 3.5 on the spice because once we started being sexy with each other, it got, woo, there was a lot. So there were trigger warnings like this for violence, death, torture, monster anatomy, and yeah, and PTSD and like abuse as well, because again, the things that happened to Seraph were horrible. Okay, then I read Slightly Scandalous by Mary Mallick. This is book 3 in the Bedouin series, it is. And this one is about Freya, who is the one of 2 sisters in the family. And she is very bold and more feisty than other society ladies. She's also considered not to be a beauty, but there's something very dignified and, you know, special about her. And then our hero in this one, his name is Joshua Moore. He's the Marquess of Halmere. And he became the Marquess through the death of his, I think it was his cousin. And his aunt is trying to make him marry his cousin so that like they can stay on the estate, even though he has no plans of ever kicking them out. But anyway, him and Freya, they kind of enter a fake engagement that's literally only supposed to last for one night, but it's supposed to keep his aunt from from saying that he's engaged to his cousin, because his aunt is just going to announce it and then hope that he's going to give in and do it. And so Freya and him get wind of this, and so Freya and him pretend to be engaged, but then they're not able to just do it for one night, and it ends up being like they end up being fake engaged. And then Joshua's like, why can't we be real engaged? And Freya's like, no, we're going to end it. And then things happen. So this book had a lot that was fun. I feel like in this one we see so much of the rest of the family, and when we get to see Joshua's family, when we go to his family home, there's reasons why we end up going to his family home and we meet his other cousins. Like, this was really beautiful. Like, I had a great time with this book. 2 things that kind of lowered my rating, and you'll see when I tell you like my rating for this. It felt too drawn out, but part of that is this took me a few days to get through because it was my audiobook and I was doing a lot of other things. And so sometimes audiobooks lately are taking me longer than just one day because I'm not sitting at my desk at work and listening to the audiobook, which I could usually get through in a day. And the other thing, Freya was a very prickly heroine. Now, y'all know I love my prickly heroines. They have been the great awakening for me in the last like couple years, is how much that I love hard shell of a heroines who are actually ooey gooey, cracked mush inside for their hero and for their families and such. But Freya, like, I knew she was ooey gooey inside, but she was so just like, this was definitely a reverse Grumpy Sunshine as well. You know, like Grumpy Heroine, Sunshine Hero. Joshua is absolutely delightful. He's the best part of this book, by the way, just the kind of man that Joshua is. Like, the way he is with Freya, their chemistry, the way he is with his family, particularly one of his cousins who has some, like, she's neurodivergent at least. We'll say that. We'll start with that. We'll say at least neurodivergent. And maybe of a little bit lesser mental capacity as well than would be normal. And the way he is with that cousin, I would just melt in a puddle for him. But him paired with Freya, I felt like he could do better than her. Okay, Freya, I did not jive with her. She was like prickly, and she stayed prickly until the last 10 pages of this book. To me, like, there was some cracking, but also she's very physically like abusive with him. And I know that's the wrong way to say it, because I spoke with one of my friends how, like, you know, when she was young in one town with her friends, like, they would kind of like smack each other a lot, and then you go to a new place and you do that and people are like, why are you hitting me all the time? I was that person too, for real. Like, when I was in elementary and middle school, one of my friends, she would bruise so easily, and so we'd be talking, I would like grab her or something, be like, you know, if there was something exciting, or I would like, she'd say something and I would like smack her, you know, across the chest or something. Sorry, that was probably close to my mic. And I would leave bruises on my friend because I would playfully smack her, but also my best friend is 4'10" and I was 5'10" even in high school, and so I would bruise my precious peach of a friend. She had literally skin like a peach or a banana or something, you know. But the way it's written in this, she's only doing it to Joshua when she's upset with him. She will slap and punch him, and sometimes to the point where he's like, ow. And I don't know, like, I know it was supposed to be playful, like, I know, but I also think, right, role reversal, okay? not to be like on the feminist stand of this, but like if the man had been smacking the lady when she said something he didn't like, we would say that he is like abusing this woman, because it's only when he says something she doesn't like or he's being outrageous, she literally will slap him across the face, punch him in the arm, like stomp on his foot, and she does it all the time. And I know it's supposed to be a cute character trait, but I was like, again, if Joshua had been doing that to Freya, like her brothers would have been like, I'm taking you behind the barn or something, okay? So I know I'm being nitpicky, I know, but again, well, I guess I won't even say my rating was diminished. Like, I still gave this a 4-star because Mary Balog's writing is still amazing. The story was great. I just didn't vibe with Freya. And I felt bad, but I've liked other ones better, and there are other ones I look forward to. So this was a 4-star. It wasn't horrible. I know that I complained about it enough that it feels like it should be lesser, but here's the thing. If you're a lover of Mary Balog, you know this. Even one of her books you don't love is still better than a lot of other people's books. So we need to move on. Talked way too long about that. Okay, then I read Tattered Stars by Catherine Cowles. This was on my TBR for September. Catherine Cowles has been sweeping my Bookstagram friends, and these ones aren't in KU, by the way, but the first one is free, like a lot of authors will do with their series. So this one was free, and then I got the audio upgrade, and which, speaking of, if you're seeing this like the weekend I'm putting it out, the Audible fall summer end sale is still going right now. So scoop yourself up some audiobooks like right this minute. Go grab them because they're extremely on sale. But okay, so yeah, so this one is about Hayes and Everly, and this is about this small town. When Everly was young, like she was a part of this like religious cult kind of, and her father had kidnapped this girl from a county fair or like festival or something, and she's being kept captive in a barn, and Everly rides her horse to town when she's like 11. I think she's 11, 9 or 11, and she tells that this girl is in her barn, and this girl is rescued because of that. Her father is put in prison, and she's kind of like shunned. She needs to go live with an aunt, and then she ends up going to live with an older sister to get her away from all of this. And now it's been 15 years, and she comes back to town because her mother, the land that all this happened on, it belonged to her mother. And so when her mother dies, it gets left to her. It doesn't go to the family. And so her family is very upset about this. Like her father's side of the family is very upset about this. So they're causing problems for her. And then also, just in the beginning anyway, because this does not last long, we have Hayes, who is the older brother to the girl who was kidnapped, and he is now the sheriff of this town. And when he finds out that Everly is back in town, he wants her to just leave, because he's like, just leave. Now, he doesn't feel that way very long. So this is listed as like an enemies to lovers small town, but it doesn't last long at all, because he very quickly sees that she's here for closure. She's here to do good things. She's going to start an animal sanctuary. There's a scene like where, because she's working with the vet in town, and like she helps his dog who gets stuck in a trap, and so he's immediately like won over. This was a slow burn between them. This book surprisingly like was not overly like sexy to me, although the sexual tension was good throughout it. But I don't know. I guess it's just a thing in my own head about it. But when I see these certain series like sweep through Instagram, I think there's something maybe more special about them than like what I was feeling. Because like this book was okay. And I think part of it too is like this has a beautiful cover. The audiobook was really good. This is set up to be a series that's very bingeable. But I gotta tell you, a lot about the setup of this small town reminded me of Sons of the Survivalist, which I know the covers are horrible. I have one right here because I've been showing them off to people. I know these covers are horrible, but if you like some of the things that were happening in this book, but it like wasn't enough for you, I highly recommend this series. And again, this is part of the Audible sale right now. There's the books are literally $3.50 each. You can get all of them for the price of one. Anyway, sorry to sidetrack. So I had a fine time with this book. I thought the small town setup was good. But I've heard like a few of my friends who've been reading it, like this was their like favorite one, and they haven't read any of them that were like better than this. I don't know. That's me making assumptions. So especially because these ones aren't on KU, I don't know that I will like continue this series, because I liked this, but I also wasn't super intrigued for more. Like, obviously, I'm intrigued about the girl who had been kept captive because we see glimpses of her. Like, she's a very, like, skittish person now. She goes off into the wilderness to be alone a lot of times. Like, there's a lot to like about her, but I just don't know if I want to read the whole series for it when I've heard they're just kind of, like, mediocre ones. I don't know. There is a series by Catherine Cowles that is on Anyplay, so I may try those ones. So I don't know, but I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't horrible, like I said. I just didn't feel any special passion for it, is what I would say. It was just okay. It was very obvious who the villain type person was in this, and yeah, like, and I've also heard that there's always a random element of super suspenseful in a book that's otherwise like a small town. And again, I bring back to this one, which sets up the suspense from the beginning. So you, like, know that you're in for this romantic suspense, but also it's still spicy. Anyway, sorry, I keep bringing up Charisse and Claire, but I feel like because of those covers, that series doesn't get the love that it deserves. And if I could speak to Charisse, I would tell her, please, for the love of the Lord, get recovered for those series, because they are so much in them that people would love. Broken heroes, found family, like, strong women without it being, like, over the top. Like, I just love. Anyway, so there was trigger warnings for violence and an injured animal. Not an animal death, but an injured animal. So there we go. Okay, then we have some Golden Angel to talk about. So I read... Oh, these went in the wrong angle. So I read A Season for Smugglers, which is book 3 in the Deception and Discipline series. Golden Angel had gifted me these books in the lead up for her newest release, which we'll get to in a minute. This one was about Lily and Captain Nathan, and they end up compromised when Lily gets kidnapped by a highwayman, and then Captain Jones is on the hunt for the traitor, and he, like, rescues her. But then they're stuck in this, like, small cabin overnight alone, and there's just no hope for it. They're going to have to get married. And so they do. Now, Lily and her friends, they've been trying to help take down this traitor, and they keep getting poo-pooed by the men all the time. And, you know, it is what it is. This one, I believe that Captain Jones is the one who makes the machines. I think he's the one who makes the machines. I can't remember. But... anyway, Lily is another one, like, she wants to get involved in the sexy times as well. And so her and Nathan, they have a lot of good times together. This was, I can now say, this was my favorite one in this series. Okay, I really liked this couple. This was a grumpy sunshine pairing. You know, it's another, like, this was a marriage of, like, convenience because they get caught together. And so this one was a 4.5 for me. This one was also very spicy. I really loved the type of spice used in this one, and so this was a 3.5. Really the only, like, content warning is that this is a BDSM. There's also some, you know, again, I think this is the one with the machines. It doesn't say on the back, but it is. And also we're really heating up the search for who the traitor is. So I really loved this. I highly recommend this series. The audiobooks are available on Anyplay. Right now, Golden Angel has the first book is 99 cents. And during the first, like, release week of the 4th book is on sale because her books don't go into KU. She's a full-time, like, smaller author, so she doesn't put her books in KU. All of hers are by them. So these covers are gorgeous. Then I read Spy Season to prepare for the next one, and this is book 3.5. And so what she did with this one, which, like, this is only literally, this is like 40 pages, so this was cute. She sent this along with the book box that had the final one, so it's so cute. I love this. But this is free. You could read this for free. So this one is how Anthony Brown and Evie meet when she goes undercover at a brothel to warn him of an assassination attempt that's going to happen, and they end up, like, hooking up, and it's a setup to lead into the final book, which we're not at yet though, because then I had some other ones to read. So then I got to listen to an arc of A Merry Little Meet Cute by Sierra Simone and Julie Murphy. This book is now out. Charles from Books on Stereo, I think that's what it is. He had been given, he had been asked to suggest some booktubers and influencers who like audiobooks. So I was lucky enough to receive an audio of this. And I think it had Tenny Hamilton and Joy Nash. I think that's who did it. AKA Julia Fairview, I think. But it's the same lady who does Juliet's audiobooks, but she has 2 different, like, names or whatever. But anyway, this is a kind of a Christmas thing. So here's the thing, like, this book is about the making of a Christmas movie, and oh my gosh, there's so much to set up for this book because it's such a complicated plot. But basically it's about our heroine. Her name is oh shit, sorry, I messed this up. Okay, Bia. Her name is Bea. And she is a porn star, basically. She started with, like, an OnlyFans. It's called something else. It's an OnlyFans. And she also makes porn films with this one producer. And she is a plus-size model. And so, plus-size lady. So she's amazing. And she wants to get into some legitimate movies. And her producer is like, no, I want to keep you far away from my legitimate holdings because I don't want, you know, word to get out that I have both a porn title and I have regular title. But when he gets hired to do a Christmas movie, the actress that the people want to hire ends up being her because they, like, see her in his, like, list of actresses because he accidentally had her. It's a whole thing. So she gets hired to do it. The person she's playing opposite, his name is Nolan. He was previously in a boy band when he was young, and now he doesn't have any money though because the manager stole all the band's money, and he's been in a few scandals back when he was wild and free. Now his mother and his sister, they depend on him to make some money. They really need help, and so he wants to get into film. So he has a lot at stake. He can't have his reputation tarnished more than it is. He's supposed to be a reformed bad boy. But here's the thing. He follows B on Behind Closed Doors, I think it's what it's called or whatever. And so when he meets the actress playing his co-star, he knows who she is. He's a big fan. He's one of her, like, executive members. But he doesn't want to embarrass her, seem creepy. And also, you know, nothing is supposed to happen with them because they need to keep this production clean, squeaky clean. But of course that doesn't last for long. They end up hooking up. Things could go disastrous. There we go. This was very cute. It was very sexy. They are both, I think, bisexual. There was a lot of great representation in the book. Like, you guys know, I don't read a lot of themed books, and I probably wouldn't have read this one if Charles didn't reach out to me with an arc of this. But I had a fun time with it. The audiobook was really great. Again, I thought it was pretty sexy, although I will say, I was let down again with lots of toys being shown to me, and then we didn't use them besides, like, flavored lube, and I was like, come on, we can do better than that, especially when the hero is bisexual and likes things going up his butt. Why did we not put things up there? I'm just saying. Wasted opportunity, but for this going to come out as, like, a mainstream book, I think that it was very sexy, and I enjoyed it, and I didn't love the third act conflict, and that, you know, that happens to me a lot, but I needed the hero to stand up a little bit more than he did. And sure, he has a grand gesture eventually and we like it. But the way that the heroine gets thrown under the bus, which you can see you can see it coming for a country mile. Okay, you know it's going to happen just because of the setup and what the stakes are for the book. Like, you know it's going to go badly and the heroine's going to be the one who gets fucked. No pun intended. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars. It was a 3 on the spice scale. All right, then I did a reread of When Heroes Fall. One of my patrons picked this for me. Haven't read this book since last year. It was so much fun to go back into this. I won't go into full detail for this except to say that this is the first book in a duet by Jana Darling, the Anti-Heroes in Love. This connects with a lot of her other books in the world. This is my favorite, like, this duet is my favorite of her books. It has surpassed all of her MC books for me. And rereading this, it meant so much to me. So we have Elena, who she is a lawyer, and she gets asked to help represent Dante, who is being accused of some racketeering charges and possibly facing a murder charge. And Elena gets asked by her sister Cosima to represent him, and she's not the head lawyer, but she promises to do her best. And Dante is this larger-than-life, he's a sunshine mafia boss, okay? It doesn't mean he can't turn on a dime and be the boss that he needs to be, but this is another where the heroine is grumpy, the hero is sunshine. He wants to peel back the layers of Elena and, like, make her his, and kind of show her her real self. You know I love that shit, okay? You know I love that shit. And rereading this book was amazing. I think it's funny because Elena was even more prickly and just like bitchy than I remember, but all of her layers and the things that go into making her bitchy, I understand her complexity and the pain that she's been through, and I don't blame her. And the way that Dante patiently and calmly wears her down and the way that he looks after her is amazing. So I loved rereading that. That's a 5-star book for me. When Heroes Fall, where I'm at. This does have fertility issues. Elena's going through some things in this one. There is gore, violence, an abusive parent, and mafia themes. Okay, then I took a risk and I read a first-time author that this was a historical romance, and this cover, tell me this cover doesn't look like a Christian romance from when you were young, or maybe you still read. This is Letters to Dogwood by Tanya Fisher. But this showed up in one of my Facebook groups that I follow, which is Upturned Petticoats and Undone Cravats. And it's all historical romances that are on the 3 Chili Peppers or higher. You aren't supposed to recommend books in that group that aren't higher than this. Now, for me, my Chili Peppers don't just mean how much sex is in a book. They mean the kind of sex that's in a book. But for this, they mean like using explicit words, but then like there's more than 3 sex scenes in a book. They have a whole scale of like how they use that. So this book is a slow burn. It's a road trip. It's a age gap. And our heroine is running away from an abusive mother who's trying to, you know, push her into different marriages. And there was a whole deal that kind of went down with her and like her sister's fiance. And she is not a perfectly squeaky clean girl. Okay, she's not perfect. And we find out more of that as we go through this book. But our heroine is running away. She's trying to take the train back to, I can't remember if it's in Texas, if Dogwood, like I don't remember where, but she meets, her name is Lucy, she meets Ben on this train, and her mother is trying to find her. So her mother has sent, like, it's spread the word that she is what she's doing. And she's trying to get back to her father, who owns a hotel, and she's been trying to get back to him, and her mother has, like, just been keeping her locked up. So she's taken some money she saved, and she is on the run to try to get back to her dad. And Ben agrees to, like, pretend to be her husband. But the mother has said that she's like 16. So Ben overhears that the 16-year-old girl is on the run, and he's like, oh my God, I was thinking that I wanted to like sleep with this woman. I thought she was so beautiful. And she's like, I'm not 16. She's saying that. I'm 18. And like my mother is trying to stop me. And so Ben agrees to travel with her. So this ends up being like a road trip, forced proximity, and fake relationship. We have a cowboy, blue collar man, and then kind of friends lovers, because they become friends on this trip. And then when she gets there, we find out how things are going with her dad and things that are going on. And Ben, he has a pretty messed up family relationship too, so we see all of that happen. So basically this book is split into kind of 2 parts. There's the road trip part where they're traveling, and then there's the, you know, Ben and Lucy actually like being together half of it. So they aren't apart the whole time. So there is, again, like sexy time in the second half of the book, and there is quite a bit of it. But I wouldn't have called it like 3 chili pepper spice, but there is quantity, and there's lots of beautiful like quotes and things in this. So for taking a chance on a first-time author, I enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4-star, and I kept it as a 3 on the spice scale because of the quantity. Maybe it's a 2.5. There are a lot of trigger warnings though. There is assault. There is an animal death. Oh, that one hurt. Emotionally abusive parent and an alcoholic parent. Yeah, but I appreciated taking a chance on this author, and it is in KU. So if you'd like to read a Western, maybe that again, like does kind of feel like a Christian romance, but spicy, maybe give this one a try, because I had a good time with it. It wasn't the worst thing. Then I read Taken by the Alien Next Door by Tiffany Roberts. This is the first book in their like Alien Next Door or something like that. But this is one I've been wanting to read, and so I read it actually on the plane to San Antonio. And this one is a captor captive. This is Tabitha and Zeverus, and Zeverus is on a mission. He's supposed to discover if his race can mate with human women because they are out of females and they have no way to replenish. And he's kind of sent on this as like his last mission. He's supposed to get to retire and go live the life he wants. And he's been trying to date. He's been using like Tinder to go on dates, and he can't quite get the hang of the lingo, and the women just aren't liking him, and like it just isn't working out. And then he gets a new neighbor, and her name is Tabitha, and she is a soap maker. She makes soaps, and he instantly connects with her, and he's desperate, and so he kidnaps her. And it is maybe the cutest kidnapping novel I've ever read. I don't know another way to say it. He's absolutely delightful. They are so cute together, and it's like the gentlest kidnapping I've ever read. Like, I don't know another way to say it. This is delightful, and there really isn't any dubious consent going on. They, like, slightly, but again, it's so sweet. Like, I wasn't mad about it. And they end up making a deal that he'll, like, untie her from his bed if she gives him 30 days to win her over to be his mate. So there you go. So this one definitely has a breeding kink because that's what it's all about. So there is kidnapping and, like I said, a tiny bit of dubious consent, but mostly he's like, I want you to want me, type of thing. He's very obsessed with his plus size, plump, lovely mate, and it was great. So I gave this one 4 stars, and it was a 4 on the spice scale. This one was spicy. It may be the spiciest Tiffany Roberts that I've read, and they've got some good ones. You know, he has a tail, and it's prehensile, so it can do shit, okay? Then I read The Sight of You by Ashley Mack. Ashley Mack is actually a friend of mine, so full disclosure. I'm also going to be on Smart Women Read Romance on their Patreon live for this because I recommended this book and Juliet won't be able to be there, so Justin and I are going to talk about this now. This is the first book in a series Ashley has coming out. It's going to be kind of a rapid release. Like, I actually have the arc for the second book because I got to meet Ashley at Wanderlust. We got to hang out with the Larks together. And I was actually reading her book on the way there because I was hoping I'd get to see her. But I already had this on my TBR, if you'll remember. I had this on my TBR, and I didn't know she was going to San Antonio until I saw her, like, story the day of. And I was like, oh my God, she's going to. And so this is going to be a series of sisters who are crime involved. They're not necessarily mafia, but there will be some crossovers. And this first one is about Alina and Derek, and they actually at the beginning of this book have a one-night stand when they don't know who each other are. And it turns out that Derek, his name is actually Broderick, and he's supposed to marry her older sister. And when the two families meet for the first time, like in person meet for the first time to set this up, he realizes that Alina is actually Allie, and she realizes that Derek is actually Brody, who she had this one-night stand with. And he's like, you know, this deal is off unless I can marry Alina instead of that one. I want to marry Alina, please. And Alina agrees because she's like, I'll sacrifice myself for my family. And I call bullshit on Alina, but you know, she's lying to herself. She's a bit of an unreliable narrator saying that, you know, she doesn't want this, but she would have been heartbroken if her sister was married to this man because they had an amazing connection in their one night stand. And Derek says, I am going to win this woman. And he goes about doing that. Okay. Now there are some things afoot. I will say that other friends who've read this book so far definitely picked up on what was going on more than me. And also, the writing style choice for this one is strange. She does have chapters that are called them, and it's a weird, like, third person or second person, like, omniscient. It's third person omniscient that happens. And then there'll be first person. But the first person, it isn't quite written the way I've read first person before. And like, again, like I said, Alina is a very unreliable, like, narrator for a lot of things. And she also, for supposedly being this really strong, fierce, smart woman, there's a lot of stuff she doesn't pick up on. And I feel like that's something I've seen with new authors where it's like, you want to leave clues so you don't blindside your readers, but then you end up leaving clues that are, like, a little too obvious. Like, for me, the reason why I didn't guess what was going on is some of these clues were so obvious that I was like, oh, that's a red herring. And so I didn't even give them the time of day. And then when things are revealed, I was like, oh, it was actually that person. Okay. But the things that I loved about this, Alina, she was a bodyguard for her father before this goes down. So she trains with Derek's men. She's strong. She's knives, like, martial arts, guns, like she can do it all. She's very fierce and she's not used to being like the feminine woman. She's like 5'10", muscular, strong, and so she is a tough chick and she's never really been girly. And Derek, like we said, like he is obsessed with her and he wants to win her any way that he can, and so he goes about trying to do that. And so there are things that were rough about this, but it's someone's first book, and I love that it's a romance writer or romance reader who wrote this, because there are things and choices that are made that I'm like, oh, those are things that I always hate, and she didn't do them. So I like that. So yeah, I say read it to support a member of a community who's writing the book, but I also genuinely did have a good time with it. I had a great time, and there are all those things we can nitpick apart and be annoyed with, but I had a good time. And again, it is my friend. My bias is clear. I'm not hiding it. So when I tell you that I gave this a 4-star and it was a 4 on the spice scale, like, you take it for what it is. I'm not going to like say, oh, it was lower than this or whatever, because my enjoyment was a 4-star. The skill of the writing, okay, this is truth. Trigger warnings: there is mention of a pregnancy loss, there's gore and violence, and the pregnancy loss isn't for the heroine, it's a previous one. Okay, then I did finish A Season for Spies. I was very happy to finally read this, right? Absolutely beautiful. This is finally Evie and Anthony's story. So, I talked about the little prequel snippet that I read before. So this picks up, I believe it's 2 years later in present time. And yes, yeah. So it's 2 years later, and now like Anthony figures out who Evie was, and he's really pissed that she tricked him, but also he's annoyed that he wants her and she's his boss's daughter. So we have a culmination of the last 3 books, and we know who the traitor is. We're trying to catch them. We're trying to trip them up. And meanwhile, there's some spankings involved. And this is the one where Evie discovers she really likes it, and she's happy to submit to a spanking, not because she has earned it, because she's amazing, but because she likes it. Now, the thing I'll say about this is that I ended up being pretty fed up with the men. Like, I know that that's the point, but I thought through these books we were supposed to be learning that the women were helping them, okay? Now, Anthony, he gets that down because he's like, you know what? Evie and her ladies, they have helped us figure out who this traitor is. They have. We would not be where we are without them. I'm going to let her tote along because otherwise she's going to do it anyway. So that's his mindset for it, is he's like, she's helping. Her cousin and her uncle, like, to still not want her involved after she's the one who's helped so much, it really made me lose all respect for a lot of the men. And one of those men is a hero from one of the previous books. And I just didn't like that I had to like lower my opinion of him. I wanted him to have learned better. And I think that the author didn't have to have them stay that stubborn. Like, we watched them be stubborn in the previous books. Like, for me, it was time for them to show that they were proud of her for what she'd done. And again, Anthony shows that part of it. And I know that Golden Angel still has to have there be reasons for him to spank her when she does dangerous things. But I want him to maybe do that more because he's scared for her. And so he's like, I gotta punish you because you scared me. Not because like, oh, you can't do this. And that just got a bit frustrating. But overall, I still loved the series. I thought it was clever. I thought it was well built. And I definitely want to always support Golden Angel because she's great. So I gave that one 4 stars, and it was a 3.5 on the spice scale. Then I read Surrender by Amanda Quick. This was our book club pick for Rake Appreciation Society. I won't talk about this too much because this video is going to be extremely long. I still have 6 more books to talk about. And we talked about it for an hour on Crystal's channel. So if I remember to, I'll link that up there. I did give this 3.5 stars, and it was a 2 on the spice scale. This has some mystery in it. Our heroine, Victoria, our hero is Lucas. Lucas needs an heiress bride. Victoria is an heiress, but she doesn't want to marry anyone. And her and him have some adventures together, and they end up getting compromised and have to get married. She feels like she gets tricked into it, and he's like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, literally, what did you think was going to happen with us sneaking out at night and going on these adventures? Like, we were going to get caught. And I didn't stop that because I wanted to marry you. So when you kept wanting to do it, I was like, meh. So anyway, it was interesting. This was my first Amanda Quick. I may read another Amanda Quick. It's not going to be anytime soon. But again, go check out our live show. We had Justin, who has been a good friend to us and a part of the like Rake Appreciation Society for quite a while now. So definitely go check that out. I love hearing the thoughts of a guy about romance. Like, I just do, okay? I just do. And I love hearing what he has to say. Sometimes he's nicer to books than we are, and sometimes he's harsher. So go to that to find out. All right. Then I read an arc of Primal Lust by W. Winters. This is Willow Winters, like, more erotic, porny pen name. And this is the third book in her, like, werewolf porn series. She even calls it that. She says, this is my werewolf porn. And I mostly asked for an arc of this because I didn't want to buy it this time because these books aren't on KU. And I actually did, like, support the Kickstarter for the first 2 books in this series. This is going to be an ongoing series, and each entry she puts out is like barely 100 pages. There's like 8 characters involved. Like, I forgot. Okay, I forgot. Because I binged the first 2 together when I read them, and then it was a year before this one came out. Like, literally, I've been waiting almost a year for this. And I just was not, like, I've forgotten everything about the other characters because you picked up right where we left off. Again, there's like 6 or 8 characters in this. And I don't understand what the overall plot is going to. This didn't even feel like a full entry. I know that she drops parts of this on her Patreon, so I think it's kind of serialized, and then when it's all done, then she binds them up. But I just didn't like it. Like, I didn't like it, and I'm starting to feel like Willow Winters isn't for me. I haven't read that much of her stuff, though. That's the thing. And I do own quite a few because she does write in so many different subgenres. But this just wasn't for me, and I was sad because I wanted to like it. And for reading an arc, I only gave it 3 stars. It's a 4 on the spice scale. There's blood play. There's dubious consent. And, well, no, in this one, it's consensual non-consent because, like, they're mates now, so there's no dubious happening. But it was just okay. Then I read Bad Saint by Monica James. This is a patron book. This is one that I annotated for a patron. And this is the first one I did for a patron that I hadn't read it first. So Morgan was pretty brave for picking this one. This is also my, like, 3rd or 4th Monica James. Monica James is not a huge win for me. She does something that I don't love, right? She breaks her books into parts when they don't need to be. So this one was volume 1. And while she completely warns you, you know, my feelings about it, like, right in the beginning, she says, this is going to have a cliffhanger. This is volume 1. Not all of your questions are going to be answered. And then she's like, this has kidnapping, violence, mild language, and blah, blah. Like, she lists all that. And so I was like, cool. There were parts I was loving about this. I was listening to the audio while I was annotating it, right? Because I was annotating it for Morgan. But, like, the heroine, I just had this strange journey with this heroine because parts of it, I was liking how strong the heroine was being and how she was giving the hero the, like, finger, you know, because she's a captive and he's trying to break her and he's supposed to be bringing her to her new owner. She is sold by her husband and gets kidnapped on their honeymoon. And Saint is the one who's supposed to deliver her to her new owner, right? But he has reasons why he's doing it, because, of course, he's a tortured hero, and their interactions were just weird. Like, again, sometimes she would have him on the ropes, too, and she's standing strong, and then she would just fold, and we're just supposed to believe that it's like, their sexual chemistry, she can't withstand him, but he didn't really do anything to break her, you know? Like, there's some stuff that happens at the end of this first volume where it's like, oh, she's so perfectly broken by him, and I'm like, when? Like, when did he break her? Like, what were the things that he did? Like, there's some sexual scenarios, there's some, like, punishments happening, but in her mind, I've never saw the parts, like, where he broke her. I just all of a sudden see her being obsessed with him and kind of in love with him, and that's the breaking that happened. I don't know. So, I mean, I'm glad I got to read this from Morgan. I hope she enjoys my thoughts. When I'm not totally loving a book that I'm annotating, I tend to get really sassy and just, you know, leave some funny remarks, because I never want to trash a book that one of my patrons picks for me, but that is also the risk that they take, you know? That's the risk that my patrons take when they pick a book that they know isn't, like, they know I haven't read it. And that's sometimes the fun for them, right? So I did end up rating this one 3.5 stars, and it was a 2 on my spice scale. But technically it doesn't even hit on my spice scale because there's no P and V in this whole book. She's a virgin. That's part of her appeal. So like our hero can't fuck her because then he would be like spoiling the goods. So there are still traded orgasms. There is mutual pleasure. There is him like forcing her to get off somehow. Like there's these different things happening, but there was no P and V. And generally I don't give a spice rating to books if they don't have that. But I mean, there were still some pretty sexy scenes, and I don't consider P and V like the only kind of sex there is. Obviously I don't. But in this case where like from the reviews that I've seen, there's no P and V until book 3. I don't have an interest in finishing the series unless Morgan picks another one of them, and then I would. But this, you know, I definitely didn't dislike it as much as some of the other Monica James that I've read, because I read a Monica James that was a 1-star book. So, you know, it could be worse. We'll say that. All right, we got to keep it moving. Then I read Titan by Jillian Graves. This was a daddy dom gargoyle romance, okay? This was fascinating. I had seen this around TikTok and Instagram, and I was feeling some type of way, and so I just decided to jump into this. And yeah, it has a gargoyle who's on a mission. He has both a human form and a gargoyle form, and part of that mission, his eye gets snagged by our heroine, whose name is Willow. Nope, that was from the last book, Juliana. And they end up first making a weekend deal where they're going to have sex and she's going to help him get into a certain party. And Juliana, she's very interesting because she actually was a child star, which is very funny about this book. Because I wonder if it reminded people of Jeanette McCurdy like it did for me. But she was a child star, and actually her manager is now like with her mother. I don't know if he's actually her stepfather, if he's just her manager now or like whatever. But they had kept her money from her and aren't giving it to her. So she's been locked in this court battle with them for 10 years. So she basically, like, to make ends meet, she's had to be a sugar baby. So she literally goes on dates with men to make ends meet because her mother has kept her money locked up. And so she's doing whatever she can to get out of this because she can't live the quiet life she wants to live. She doesn't want to be in films anymore. She doesn't want to do that. And there are things that her mother and the manager are like threatening to do to her if she won't comply. But anyway, she ends up helping Titan. Like, he has a mission that him and his gargoyle men like are trying to go on, and they get involved. And first it's just going to be like a weekend fling. They're going to help each other out. And then it gets extended, and then Titan starts falling for her. So there are some great scenes in here. This had just enough daddy kink to be great. Like, it didn't go completely over there. Like, I know that the title says like daddy dom, like, yes, that's happening, but it wasn't totally over the top. Like, he's calling her baby girl, she's calling him daddy now and then. It's hot. His tail can do things. There's definitely some double stuffing involved with his tail and his other parts, and it was hot. Like, it was hot. I had a great time with this. The plot definitely ran away with it a little bit with some of that like weird stuff that was happening. Like, there was a lot of other story happening in this book where I was kind of like, okay, we got it. But I did give it 4 stars, and it was a 4 on the spice scale. And really the only trigger warning is like, I mean, emotionally abusive parent, and then like the size difference is real. Okay, it was great. Then I won't say much about this at all. This is The High Mountain Court by A.K. Mulford. This was the Patreon book for September. I'm actually going to film my exclusive review for this right after we do this video. So I don't have much to say because this was the pick from my patrons for this month. My brain. If you're interested in my Patreon, definitely check out the link down below. My patrons at the $7 and above level get to pick a book each month that I only review for them, and then I will raffle off this book to the person because I annotated it. So I will just tell you that this book was a 4 star. It was a 2 on the spice scale, and I had a good time with it. It surprised me. So definitely go check out my Patreon if you want to know the review for this. And if you're a patron who's watching this, this video should be up very soon. I will get it put up shortly. And then the last book that I finished last night, I squeaked in. This is an ARC as well. And this was one that I have some mixed feelings about because I was really enjoying the setup of this actually. And I was enjoying the hero's reactions. And then it got too crazy for me and it dropped. But I think it might still interest you. It's pretty fun. So first off, Brutal Intentions by Lilith Vincent. Lilith Vincent is the like new name for Brianna Hale, I guess. Like I know it's technically an alternate pen name, but I don't know when or if she'll write anything else under Brianna Hale. I haven't seen that. And I know that she's put out some reverse harems, and so I haven't read any of this new name. They've been Mafia reverse harems because I have zero interest in those. Don't have an interest in those. But I know some people really love them. I have no interest in them. But then I saw this pop up on one of the review sites that I use that it was going to be a standalone, taboo, stepfather, age gap romance. So I was like, okay. So this has Mia, who is the 18-year-old daughter. She is the bastard daughter of her mother, who is like 42. And she has one or two older sisters who actually do like really love her, but her mother had an affair, and so she's very much like shunned by her family. She's very unloved. Her mother was just put into an arranged marriage with Laz, who is right in the middle of their ages. So he's 28, so he's only 10 years older than her, and he's like 13 years younger than her mom. So like right in the middle there. And they've been married for like a little over a month, and Laz hates this family, but his brother kind of forced him to do it, and he's supposed to get the mother pregnant because once he has made an heir for his family, then he will get his inheritance and he can go and buy the car garage that he wants to buy and live like a more peaceful life, you know. But he is crazy. He was a playboy before this, bonkers, but it's not that he wants like out of the mafia, but he didn't want to be used as this pawn, and his brother made him. And he can't take out his anger on his wife, so he decides he wants to fuck with his stepdaughter, and so he messes with her. And the thing is, which it's very interesting how it starts, because at the beginning, he's like excited to mess with her because he realizes that the mother and her uncles don't care about her, so he knows that he can do bad things to her and no one's gonna stop him, and no one would believe her if she told. So literally, like, it's set up to be this pretty like sick, twisted thing, because he's like, I can do what I want to you and no one's gonna stop me. And so he does like sneak in her bed at night, and he's turning her on and messing with her, and she doesn't want him to, but what can she do? But then like he starts to fall for her and she starts to fall for him, and he really regrets that he acted that way, and he honestly is pretty pissed about how her family treats her and that they're not looking out for her, and he's able to do this. You know, like, it's such a weird setup. So I was having a great time with that, and it's actually like, even though he is like fucking with her, it's kind of a slow burn thing, because again, like, he's messing with her, and then it slowly turns into like he actually wants to be with her, and now what are we gonna do? Because he's supposed to have a baby with her mom and like be married to her mom, and he's in love with his stepdaughter, which isn't going to go well. So Laz comes up with a plan to hopefully make things better for everyone, or so he thinks. So yeah. This has cheating in it, and I really like, there's a note at the beginning from Lilith. She's like, he's not a great dude. He is married, and it's not to her. He's married to her mom. He's a possessive alpha hole. There's an age gap, and she's a virgin, and there is breeding kink involved in this one, and messing with birth control. Like, literally, it has all the things in it. And the way that it's written is, it's almost farcical. Like, I was laughing, but also Laz was a bit dumb. He's a bit dumb. Like, I don't know another way to say it. So, like, I was laughing my way through this. Again, I really enjoyed the first 40% of this book, and then, like, I had to fall asleep the one night. And when I finished it last night, I was kind of disappointed how he was acting. And not about the breeding kink, like, I'm here for that, but he didn't stand up for her enough. Like, I didn't like that. And for Mia, I really felt for her a lot. I felt for her a lot, the situation she was in. But I don't know, I had a pretty good time with it. It's just, it was sitting, like, I was like, wow, this is a good book. Is this gonna be a 5-star book? And then no, I ended up giving this 3.5, which I will round up to 4 because this is an arc. This book comes out on the 27th, I think, and it was a 4 on the spice scale. So like I said, the trigger warnings, like, there's breeding kink in here, abusive family, and also, like, our hero has to go through some shit at the end. So anyway, yeah, but it wasn't horrible. And again, like, it was pretty bonkers and funny in that respect. So, all right, we're like right just past an hour here. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for sticking around. Let me know which of these books you're excited for. And yeah, check out my channel memberships and Patreon if you want to support this channel and help me keep doing what I do. If nothing else, please like this video and subscribe to the channel so that you'll get all of my weekly videos. I put up 3 to 4 videos a week. And yeah, I'll see you in the next time, everyone. Bye.